Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your direct purchase and pricing email question line straight to me with your questions about this or any Watchbox watch. Reach out to me directly for pricing. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing the latest version of the rose gold Patek Philippe Nautilus, the 5711 1R-001, a timepiece that features the latest caliber 26-330 caliber, 40 millimeters in rose gold, measures 8.6 millimeters thick, 47.7 millimeters from link to link across. I consider that to be the distance across the wrist with this integrated bracelet watch. We will open up the clamshell, which is a locking clasp featuring ceramic pin snaps. And we're going to open up the double folding clasp and throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. Now, being only 8.6 millimeters thick, the watch is slim, slender, easily slides underneath the dress cuff. No problem looking down the wrist. I like to say down the barrel. You can see that the bracelet swells out on both sides, meaning I could have a much smaller wrist, possibly as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference, and wear this watch well. Compared to the same watch in steel, you do feel considerably more mass. It's heavier, but it's also balanced all the way around with a massive gold bracelet and clasp to match the massive gold watch case and bezel. Let's take a closer look at that hardware. Taking a look at the bracelet, of course, an original feature of the Nautilus dating back to the first 3700 in 1976. A little bit of taper integration with the lug profiles. There's a bevel that runs down the lug shoulders, aligned all the way across the shoulders of the links. Primary links in satin finish, intermediates in high polish. You can see it's satinated on the side. Removable links, as you can see, are fixed in place by pins and sleeves. A very durable system, but you will need a block and punch if you want to size this at home. Double deploying clasp, and then you can see those ceramic pin snaps I mentioned. Spring loaded. The idea here is that over time, the rose gold clamshell lock will not be able to wear down the pin snaps because they are ceramic, so this will retain tight closure tolerances for years and decades to come. A sharp locking mechanism with the Calatrava cross externally, the emblem of the Patek Philippe brand. The bracelet is also quite thin, slim, and light on the wrist. It's nothing like a Royal Oak Offshore or even a 5726 or 5980. This is a very comfortable dress-like bracelet. The watch, though, is a sports watch. Screw down crown, 120 meters water resistant, fully loomed. Let's do a quick loom shot here. And of course, automatic winding with a 45-hour power reserve. The watch features the characteristic of the Nautilus, the rounded polygon that represents the outer bezel, the inner bezel, the dial, and the sapphire. One of the reasons I often say the Nautilus was a better resolved Gerald Genta design than the Royal Oak is that the Royal Oak has round inner bezel, round sapphire, round dial, but it has that rounded octagonal bezel outboard. Well, on the Patek, the dial, the crystal, the inner bezel, they all have the exact same contours as the outer bezel. You can also see why a Nautilus costs more than an Aquanaut. The complexity of the case and the details of the finishing, manual finishing, help to illustrate why this watch costs more and why it takes longer to build one. The dial has a lovely gradient from almost brown bronze in the center to dark, almost black at the edge. Rose gold hands, rose gold indices, a frame for the date, and of course, because this is the latest caliber 26-330 SC, we have a hacking seconds function that was introduced in 2019. Of course, 5711 is going to be phased out, so it had a relatively short run. We also have a quick set date, and of course, the watch is powered by that landmark movement, closely related to 324. Quite a few changes were made, however. You can see architecturally the bridges have changed a little bit. Some of the architecture adjacent to the reduction wheels of the winding system have changed. It's still handsomely finished. Again, 120 meters of water resistance, 45-hour automatic winding, power reserve, and energized by unidirectional winding with ceramic rotor bearings. A free-sprung balance adjusted in 6 positions. It's the historic Patek Gyromax style free-sprung balance architecture with the anti-magnetic silicone hairspring, the 6-position adjustment, and of course the presence of the Patek Philippe seal. Patek warns that these watches will run no worse than -3 + 2 seconds per day. Single mainspring barrel, 4 Hz beat rate, and of course it is a 30 jewel movement with immaculate mirrored beveling, started mechanically but finished by hand. You can also see some of the locating pegs for the bridges have been black polished on their tops, as have the screws, which also feature chamfered slots and circumference. A Côte de Genève linear on the bridges, circular on the rotor, with engine turning on the center of the rotor, as well as on the base plate below the bridges. It is a handsome and extensively hand-decorated movement. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Patek Philippe 5711 1R.